Good afternoon. I wish I were there, but as you can hear, my voice is not exactly going to be good for much more than this lecture. Looking at the program, much of the program will be dealing with various things, mechanical, computer. So I guess whether it's appropriate for me to begin with something very human, the translator. All of us have chosen to be freelance translators, and nobody promised us easy money or easy hours, but we have chosen it for many reasons. And as such, part of our success, part of the reason to invest the time and the effort and the care is job satisfaction. Now, we talk about job satisfaction, we really have to link it with success. Because when we feel successful, we enjoy our job. And when we don't feel successful, or we feel trapped, or essentially not enjoying our job, then we are much less satisfied and has huge effects on not only our work, but on our private life. So specifically what I'm going to talk about are why is job satisfaction important? That may be obvious to most of you. How does society define success? Which in practice is very little with the reality of how most translators define success. In fact, I would say success is very, very subjective, and it involves sort of celebrating today, appreciating what you have, building for tomorrow, and for some of us, you may have to filter noise. And I'll explain what I mean by filtering noise. First of all, I want to distinguish between two key words, happiness and satisfied. They're not the same thing. They're not really related sometimes. So how are they different? First of all, happiness is a very time-related word. We know when we're happy. We can actually set the clock. I received good news. I had a really good ice cream. Whatever makes you happy, we know when it happened. It is at a specific time and lasts a specific time too. Whereas satisfaction. Yes. Someone has to. Hello? Okay, I'll go on. Apparently it's a technical problem. Anyway, so happy is a very much time-related word. But satisfied is a background feeling. We're not really aware of satisfied until we have a moment of sitting back at the end of a good day and say, life is pretty good. Not really perfect, but it's pretty good, and I am, where I want to be. Second of all, happiness is a very intense emotion. When you are happy, nothing else really counts. Your problems disappear. And for that, whatever period of time you can maintain happiness, life is very good. Unfortunately, unfortunately, you can't always stay that way. Satisfaction is a much less intense feeling. It's a background noise. It's a background feeling. You're not always aware of it. It doesn't dominate other feelings. But when you have it, people recognize it. The causes of happiness are clear. I can quote Alexander Dumas, who said happiness comes from something good happening or when something bad stops happening. So we can generally figure out why we're happy. On the other hand, satisfaction is a vague series of circumstances, conditions, all these elements which say that life may have problems, but it's fairly good, but I can't put my finger on it. The problem with happiness is you can't be happy all the time. I would argue if you were happy all the time, you wouldn't even know what happy is. But on the other hand, satisfaction is sustainable. That as long as you are more or less where you are today and you're moving in the right direction in the future, you can be satisfied with where you are and where you're going. And it is long-term a sustainable feeling. So let's talk first about my background. First of all, professional background. I'm a full-time translator, freelance. I translate Hebrew, French, and Russian to English. legal and financial mainly. I have some 18 years experience as a translator, and I'm also a lecturer half-time. Now, I'm going to add some personal details, not because they're interesting in themselves, but they're important because they define my personal concept, or they shape my personal perception of satisfaction. Everyone's going to be different. These are mine. I'm male. That's very meaningful of life expectations. I'm 62 years old, and I'm married, and I have an adult child. Now, all of these affect how I view life, what my income needs are, how much I want to improve myself. Everyone is going to have a different set of data. And such, everyone will have a different set of expectations. Okay, so why is job satisfaction important? No one ever promised you a rose garden. First of all, time. There was a great cartoon a couple of days ago where there was a picture of someone working, and that was called work time. But someone was in the shower thinking about their translation. That's also work time. And someone was watching television and answering email, and that's also work time. Most of us who are full-time find that we spend very long days doing something related to translation. It doesn't necessarily mean we're translating or earning money at the time, but we're doing something with translation. It takes a hell of a long time, a lot of our day. So if you like what you're doing, it's very important. It's very hard to spend something for me to it is very, very hard to spend a lot of time doing something you dislike. Second of all, to a large extent, especially for men, our job is our identity. When I say I am a translator, and I say that with pride and happiness, I don't add those words, but you hear it when I say it. People hear it, then it means that I am comfortable with who I am. If someone says, I work at a donut store, and they sound depressed, it expresses something about themselves and how they feel about themselves. So I think that our job title has a huge impact on how we are and how we feel about our job title. Finally, job satisfaction creates huge waves. When we like our work, we're nicer to people, people are nicer to us, and life is a hell of a lot smoother. And how does this show? First of all, when we get up in the morning, I consider myself fortunate that most mornings I get up a little excited about what I'm going to do today. I know people who know what they're doing today, tomorrow, a week, and a year, and they hate it. And I don't know how they can get through life getting up in the morning hating their job. If you get up in the morning, most mornings at least, looking forward to something new or something old, or looking forward to doing what you're doing, you're a very, very lucky person, and I hope you are. Now, when you are satisfied, you are much nicer and more pleasant and patient and tolerant of other people. And you can call it karma, you can call it whatever you like, but people are nicer to you. Life is easier. Unhappy people create a lot of unhappiness around them. This is more philosophical, but I know there are certain religious tendencies that believe the more we suffer on this planet, the closer we will get to God. I don't particularly buy this. I understand that from time to time we have to suffer physical pains and emotional things going on in our life, but I don't think we have to add to them. So if we have a choice to control our work and make our work pleasant, why not? Okay, before we talk about our satisfaction, let's look at societal's definition of success. What is not mentioned so much is what are their assumptions. The first one is work is a first priority. In Japan through the 1980s, maybe 1990s, there was a concept called salaryman, a wonderful Japanese use of English. And it was for many Japanese, it was reality. After college, they began working with the company. They spent 12-hour days with the company. They It had lunch, went on vacations, everything the company provided, and they were expected to make work first priority over children, family, everything else. The other assumption is that when we talk about people's success is full-time. When you work full-time, you have full access to promotion, to learning, and people treat you seriously. When you're working part-time, or you have to take time off to pick children up and the like, you are somehow less valuable. But we assume that people are full-time employees. Don't take this for granted. When we talk about success, it helps to be an industrialized country that has social benefits, relatively minimal bureaucracy, easy access to finances, simple tasks like the post office and the bank take maybe an hour instead of a whole day. All these elements allow us to realize our potential. And the other element of success is that the person achieves them because they have almost no household obligations. I guess the best example I can give is I had a friend of mine whose father was a vice president of ARCO, spent 300 days a year at hotels. He was never home. The man was extremely successful. I have no idea what his income was, but I imagine it was very high for his time. But he was a terrible father. But society considered him successful because he was making a lot of money. He was a vice president at ARCO. Okay, so how does society view success? First of all, foremost maybe, is income. How much money are you making? In some societies, you don't ask. In some societies, you ask directly. But if you go to your high school reunion, the comparison is with your peers of the same age, how much money you're making. Now, not all, there are some benefits that are not financial. Income tax doesn't view it that way, but we do. For example, you might have a fancy car, you might have a company parking spot, you might get very liberal paid vacations. There are lots of benefits which are very useful. I think in Israel, the most famous one or infamous one was the electric company, where they received free electricity. Great benefit. Another way we can sort of measure success of people, or society measures success, is pecking order. What are you, a president, a vice president, a senior manager, a manager? How many employees do you have? How many departments do you run? Obviously, like in the army, the higher up you are, the more successful you are. That's how society views it. Okay, there are some qualitative society, much less important. Are your skills recognized? Do people go to you how to do something? Do people respect you? Yeah, I think it's very important. When people respect you, you're successful. Have you got some company awards, best salesperson, employee of the month? All that shows that you are a successful person. Okay, now back to reality. Translators. I can't see how many people are there. I'm sorry, and I don't. But I imagine that's over 50% of the people in this conference are female. Possibly significantly more than 50%. Men and women don't view success in the exact same way. It's individual to a large degree, but there are different expectations, there are different hopes, there are different capabilities in terms of how they can allocate their time. So the fact is that in translation in particular and freelancing, it's not all men. Some of you may be working part-time. I have been working full-time with a half-time job. Depending on your work status, it very much depends on how much you can invest in any job, and obviously it will affect your achievement. Geographical location. We talk about translators. It does make a difference. I know translators in Africa who for them to get paid, they have to go through 2 intermediate banks, and they're not even on the electrical, and they have to have a generator at home. it's very hard to do business in certain countries. I don't think Israel's hard to do business in, but clearly depending where you are, you have more tools to reach your potential. Marital status. Some of you, many translators are single. In other words, theoretically, they can devote many hours to translation. Some translators are divorced with small children. That changes things just a little bit. Depending on your marital status, it makes a big difference on how much you can actually allocate to work. Finally, personal obligations. For many people, life is not their own. They may have very small children, they may have older parents, and they work between those obligations. All right, so that's the reality of many translators. So how do we view success? First of all, volume. How much business are you doing? Are you busy all the time? Or let's put it other way. How much dead time do you have? How often you go a week or two without business? If you find that you can track based on when orders go out, how often you are busy, and if you're busy, you're doing well. Are you earning enough income to meet your needs? I didn't say a six-figure income. I said, are you earning enough income to meet your needs? That's to a certain degree how we can judge income. Are your skills, what are your translation skills? Are they getting better? The more you translate, the better you are. There's no arguing about it. And if you see progress, you can say, yes, I'm getting better. I'm successful. Technical skills. How do you handle PDF? How do you handle various other programs that you may have to deal with? If your technical skills are getting better, you are successful. How about your marketing skills? Many translators come into this business not only with no idea how to market, they don't even want to. Well, we understand, and you'll understand, it's quite clear you can't survive in the long term. So if your marketing skills are improving, then yes, you're successful. Are you reaching customers with the marketing efforts? You are successful. Okay, so how can we actually measure this concretely? First of all, do you have more customers today than you had a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 6 months ago? If you do, you're doing well. Has your income gone up? Now, that's a tricky one because there are rough periods. The COVID was rough. Maybe you lost a major customer, but you can look at your income and say, all right, it's going upward, the right direction. Are customers coming back to you? This is a very sure sign that you're doing a professional job. If you were doing a poor job, they wouldn't come back to you. Are you getting recommendations and referrals from customers? If you are, then clearly you did something right, and you should be happy with what you've done. Okay, are you getting certifications? Are you taking programs? Are you using your free time to improve yourself? All right, you're doing fine. You're moving forward. A really nice element is when clients and peers praise you. Thank you, you did a really nice job on that thing. You're successful. Now, maybe you're not big, but you're successful in what you did. Did you survive the COVID years? I think if you did, you should be proud. Lots of people had to drop from the field. This one's tricky. In the best of all possible worlds, many of us have families that support us, that think we're doing the right step, that really think we're wonderful because we're freelancers. In reality, some of us have people who doubt what we're doing. You've never had a business. What do you know? Why are you taking this risk? And it's a very good feeling when you say, not only am I surviving, I'm actually doing well. And yes, it does provide a fuel for success. Okay. The last several years have been very challenging, and I don't see anything changes. We're going to be talking about technology here. I think the GPT is going to be a big challenge too. If you meet if you had challenges and you met them as best as you could, fairly successfully, not 100%, but reasonably successfully, and you overcame them and they're not stopping you, then consider yourself successful. Are you growing? I think that's the real thing about today when we look at success. No matter how small, how many few little business you had, no matter how much you fell from COVID, if you are growing now, then you are successful. Okay, very nice to feel good now, but we want to sustain this. So the first thing we need to think about is how much money do you want to be earning in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? And there are those who say it's best to be specific. How much do you want, if you know how much money you're earning a month now, what do you want your average to be in a year, 2 years? Once you are specific, then you can look for opportunities to make that happen. Now, the market's changing rapidly and has been. It's not new, but it's just changing faster. It may be necessary or even desired that you to go to different sectors. It may be worthwhile to say, okay, this sector, I'm getting as much business as I can, but I also worked a little bit in a bank, so maybe I can do some translation and banking elements or whatever. In other words, to increase your income by increasing your number of sectors that you can go. That's a place to go. I had a discussion in prosy.com about this matter. Can you ever have enough customers? No, always look on new customers. The fact is that it's the nature of the business to lose customers because of what's happening, nothing to do with you. And you always need to be pulling in new customers. And if you've got one great customer, there's nothing more dangerous for any business, big or small, to be over-dependent on more than on one customer or a few customers. Keep on looking. So set goals, reach out. Even if you are doing well, you need to build for the future. For some of you, it might be an issue of status. If you're part-time, you're thinking about going full-time, you must plan for it. It's no arguing about it. So we talk about future growth. I call it a vector. If you're moving in the right direction, it can help you emotionally survive a bit of a rough present. Last but not least. We bribe children. If you get a 90 in math, I'll buy you a, I don't know, PlayStation or something like that. Well, you're allowed to bribe yourself. If your dream is a vacation in Tahiti or some Pacific island, you could say, okay, I'm going to really work hard so I can take my 2-week vacation without a computer to this Pacific island and do absolutely nothing, if that's your dream. So there's nothing particularly wrong in bribing yourself, if you can. All right. How can we grow in the future qualitatively? First of all, you have to identify areas to improve. Nobody is good at everything in the beginning or even in the end. And part of growth is saying, this is where I need to go. For example, I'm very inefficient using keyboard. So I actually took a paid 2-hour webinar and I'm trying to apply it because I realize I can be a lot more efficient. So you take steps and take a webinar. I'm going to practice them. I'm going to make them work. By doing this, we create a feeling of satisfaction because we're moving forward. Always move forward. No matter how good it is, think about where you can improve. There's always room for improvement. Now, it may be necessary to eliminate the irrelevant. And what do I mean by eliminate the irrelevant? There are certain tasks that we're not good at and we hate. I don't know which comes first. For example, accounting. I translate accounting, but I hate accounting. And it takes so much time and energy that I pay somebody to do it. So I choose not to spend the time and energy in accounting and pay someone who really does a good job and apparently likes it. So there are certain tasks that we may need to pay somebody else because they need to be done, and apparently we're not the person to do them. It might be financially worthwhile. Okay, filtering. There are people around us, there may be people around us who really don't think we made a right decision. And with people like that, you sort of have to either, first of all, tell them you don't want to hear about it, or there are certain people you say you don't want to talk to at all, but that's not always possible. But you have to silence their voices. And that is just a matter of a couple of words, and that often works. Self-doubts are a lot trickier, because what happens after 2 months of almost no work? You start thinking what you're not good at, what the problem is. It's tough. The best way to do it is, instead of focusing on what's not right, figure out where you can improve and reach out and work through to get new customers, new sectors, whatever can be done. The only way out of self-doubt is really to work your way through it. I think there was a quote from Winston Churchill, if you're stuck in hell, keep on walking, something like that. Sometimes it's helpful to talk with a mentor or friend. And what is a mentor or friend? What is their job? To tell you the truth, not all negative, not all positive, but to give you an outside perspective. My father had a business, and he had an uncle who was very, very wise, part of one of the men who designed the television. And he would talk with my father would talk with him before any major decision, because he wanted some feedback, honest feedback, someone who had no interest except as someone who had knowledge and cared about the situation. And if you are being annoyed by irrelevant ambitions, drop them. I go to a lot of webinars, and I love these people. I appreciate them who are talking about six-figure incomes. I don't know what currency they're talking about, but they're talking six-figure incomes. To make it clear, I don't earn a six-figure income. Or they're really good using certain technologies. And the fact is, it's not really relevant for me, personally, for me, at my stage of my life, at my whatever, for my needs and the like. So I can drop that. I don't have to feel bad. I can wish them success, and they're those goals are irrelevant for me. And you have to filter them out, because if you're upset about what you cannot or really don't need to attain, it can make you unhappy. The best way to filter really is to focus on a few specific goals: incomes, customers, skills. When you filter on that, you focus on the positive, and focusing on the positive creates success, and success creates satisfaction. Okay, now, in other words here, to be satisfied, you have to have a positive but realistic self-assessment. You need to be what you're good at, aware of what you're good at, and what you're not good at. And there's no shame in that. You need to find practical ways to make your strengths stronger and make your weaknesses, at least they don't stop you from doing anything. They don't limit your potential. They may never be a strength, but at least that. And crying about them doesn't help, but practical steps does, because you're doing something. And I think to a large degree, we have to realize that nobody is the best in everything. I hear people who are marketing geniuses, and I listen to them, and I'm impressed, very impressed. And then I have to remind them, if they're marketing geniuses, I'm a better legal translator than they are. Everyone's got their strengths, or whatever the case may be for you. So when we look at that, I think if you realize that nobody is the best in everything, you don't have to be jealous of anybody. You can say, wow, they're really good at that, and I can learn. Now, but I'm also good at something else, and I can learn, and they can learn from me. Finally, in this one, to be 2 minutes, I finish. Errors. We all make errors. You make more errors when you're beginning, but you still make errors throughout your career. The first time it happened, it took me 1 week to recover. Errors, I've learned, are learning opportunities. When something goes wrong, I'm upset for a couple of hours, and then I break it down. What happened? Why did it happen? And what can I do to prevent it? Practical example, I've lost a few customers over the years for poor quality on work done the same day. The cause is I did it the same day, and I cannot do QA the same day. It doesn't work very well. It's Russian roulette. So my policy is I don't do same-day delivery. Could be very early the next morning, but I don't do same-day delivery unless somebody else reads it. All right. Every time you make an error, find a way to prevent it in the future that's systematic, not based on your good faith. Okay, summary. Success is subjective. It's your success. It's your success and not what society says. If you go to a high school reunion and you got people who are driving fancy cars and the like, be happy for them. It's not terribly relevant to you. You got your package, and if you did the best, you're doing the best you can with your package. Your situation is unique and dynamic. Nobody has exactly what you have, for good or bad, and it's going to change. Where you are now is not where you're going to be 5 years from now. So your concept of success and satisfaction is going to be changing all the time. Appreciate success and build on it. It's very easy to say what you're not good at, what's not working, but sometimes tell yourself, because we have to, you know, I really did a good job in that translation. I got all that work done in a week. But I have nobody owes me money right now. I took care of all the bill. I took care of all the invoices. Appreciate what you did, what you've done well, but build on it. Now, what do you want to do in the future? What can be better? And there's always something to improve. Finally, reject global negativism. That means that even when things are tough, even when you've lost a customer, even when you did a poor job, okay, it happened. But obviously, if you survive now, you've learned something, there's some positive elements here. You know, identify the positive elements, because global negativism leads you nowhere except a black hole. A realistic appraisement leads you to take steps to improve the future. And when the vector's going the right direction, you tend to be a lot happier about your work. I thank you for your attention. I apologize for my voice. You can reach me at Gaguzia Translations, and and let me just do a stop share. Okay, I think I was on time even. So thank you very much.